Hi, Desirae.
Awesome job on everything that you sent in again for this week. Let's see, we're just gonna get right to it. So first thing actually is this Monday is our next workshop, and I believe we are good to go for you being able to come on Monday. I know it's Valentine's Day, but I think that I think we're good to go. So we have a couple of options for that. We could actually, if you would like to, do Amazing Grace, because based on your recording here with our change to our broken triads for the left hand, it's looking really nice. So again, we could even go back to doing just the regular blocked chords that we started with, if you'd be more comfortable with that, or we could stick with what you've been working on for the last week and a half or so with that left hand change. But I think either way it would actually work out great for the workshop. I think that would be a really solid piece if that's something you'd be comfortable with. The other good option I think for this month would be to review sailing and go over that one. So that one I think would be an easy thing to review between now and Monday, and you sound great on that one too. So either way, we've got some good options. It kind of just depends on whatever you're more comfortable with. You can think about it for the next few days and then decide what you would prefer to do for Monday. So our theory, we will take a look at that next. Now, the page that you did, absolutely perfect. We did a great job with identifying those minor key signatures. So that was page 46. For next week, we're going to do page 47, which is still working with our minor key signatures, but this time we're having to identify the key signature based on a little excerpt of music. And it's not only minor key signatures, we've got some major ones thrown in there as well. So if you look at page 47, we see we've got all of these, it's over here, there we go, all of these different examples of different, and they're only 4 bars long, each of them, so really short little excerpts of music, and they've all got these different key signatures. So some of them could be major and some of them could be minor. You do have a mix, but you're basically trying to identify what your key signatures are. So your first step for each one is to look at literally what is in my key signature. Is it nothing? Is it sharp? Is it a flat? What's going on there? And when you've identified that, that means we can narrow it down to 2 different things, right? It's either going to be the major key that goes with that key signature, or the relative minor key that goes with that key signature. So you're just going to determine which one it is. Now, good tricks for that are to kind of take a look at the ending, deciding where your melody ends on. For example, if you're trying to decide between C major and A minor, but your melody ends on an A, you're probably not in C major, right? There's a good chance that if your melody's in C major, you're not going to end on an A. So that's a good hint that you're actually in A minor. You can also kind of be looking for if there's a 5-finger pattern going on with the notes that are being used for each example. What are those 5 notes, right? Does that 5-finger pattern match either the major or the minor key option? That's also a really good hint. So do your best with that, see how that goes, and we can always, of course, talk about it if you had any questions or any problems as you were going through it, or if something wasn't making total sense. We can absolutely go over that in your lesson next week, but give that a try, see how it goes. So that's page 47. Let's talk about Amazing Grace next. Like I said, your broken triad patterns for left hand look like they're coming along great. We're actually going to go in a totally different direction for this week, unless you decide you want to do this for the workshop. So this is something that you'll just kind of have to figure out what would be best for you for this week. So if you decide you want to do Amazing Grace for the workshop, then you're just going to keep practicing it one of the 2 ways we've already done, either those blocked triads for left hand that we started with, or the new broken triad patterns that we've been working on more recently. If you decide you would rather do sailing for the workshop, then for Amazing Grace this week, we're going to go in a totally different direction. Okay, so either way is totally fine. It just depends again on what your personal preference is and what you would be more comfortable with doing for the workshop on Monday. But if you decide to do sailing, then for Amazing Grace this week, we are going to shift gears and we're now going to do the chords in the right hand, not the left hand. We're actually going to eliminate the melody altogether. So if we do that for this upcoming lesson, then obviously that's what we're going to be working on. If you decide you want to do Amazing Grace for the workshop though, that's still the next thing that we'll do. We'll just wait until your lesson on Tuesday after the workshop to start on that. So you don't have to be working on it in multiple ways, okay? So we won't be like falling behind or anything. If you'd rather do Amazing Grace for the workshop, then we'll just push that out basically a couple days. So either way, totally works well. So you'll do the right hand chords. It'll be exactly the same chords, notes in the chords, inversions, all of that stuff we've already covered. But then your left hand is going to practice separately. So this will be hands alone. Right hand has the chords now. Left hand is just gonna play the bass notes. And I have to pull up my chart here because I don't know where my printed copy is. So for example, on your opening line, your chords are F, F, and then C7, right, for the first couple measures. So your left hand is literally just gonna play F, F, C. It's only the roots of each chord. And for the most part, that's pretty easy because you just have to look at whatever letter your chord is, and that's the note that you play, right? If you have a D minor, you'll just play the D. If you have a B flat, you'll just play the B flat, right? The only place that will change is at the end when we have that F/C going on, the F chord over C in the bass. That is where you'll actually use the second letter. So that's where we've been playing C, F, A for our chord, right? That F chord with C in the bass. So there you won't play F in the bass. It'll be just like what we did for this week when we had the broken triad combinations. You'll still play C in the bass there, okay? That's the only exception. All the rest of the time, it's just whatever that first note of the chord is, and you are good to go. But you can play it hands alone for this week. You don't have to do both together. And like I said, if you decide you want to do sailing for the workshop, then go ahead and start practicing Amazing Grace this new way with right hand chords and left hand bass notes. But if you decide you want to do Amazing Grace for the workshop, just keep practicing it how we've had it, and then we'll go over this together on Tuesday. Okay? Hope that all makes sense. I know that was a lot of different things. Okay, for our up and touch, we had our patterns of threes. That's right. You did awesome with that. Very, very good adjusting your speed and making sure that we're making that pattern go all the way through those 3-note combinations. So for this week, we're going to switch it up again. We are almost done working with this particular technique in this way. So we have a couple more things to go through with it, and then we will be going on to something else. But for this week, we're going to do actually an arpeggio. So it's just going to be 4 notes. It's not like when we do our technique arpeggios for 4 octaves. We're not going to do up and touch for 4 octaves. Let me move this over here. So for example, if we just do a 1 octave arpeggio, let me shift this a little bit so you can see better. That would be, that's okay. So that would be C, E, G, and then C again on top. Sorry if you can hear the vacuum in the background. Okay, so we'd have C, E, G, C, right? So that's it. That's a 1 octave arpeggio, 4 notes, nothing else. So we're gonna now extend our pattern across 4 notes so that when we get to the top, we've been working through this up and in touch, okay? So we're gonna do this on a C arpeggio for both hands. Again, you want to kind of move through it fairly quickly so you're not all the way over here by the time you get to your last note, right? That is no good. We'll do that starting on C, and then we're also going to do that starting on D, but we want to make this a D major arpeggio, which means it's not all white keys, right? We've got to get this F sharp in the middle. So for D, you're going to play D, F sharp, A, and then D again on top. So we don't want that F natural in the middle. If it sounds really sad, take another look. We want the F sharp in the middle. So again, we kind of get a little bit more of that variety with the mix of white and black keys. And we still have this up and in motion, okay? So we'll do that on a C arpeggio and a D arpeggio, 1 hand at a time again for this week. And that's how we'll work on that. Then we had Romanian Rhapsody. So this one, again, your rhythm on this is just so good. So I think we just really have a couple things to remind about with this one. for your practice this week, and we're really in great shape. So we do have that repeat, not only on the first line on that like introduction section, but we also have a repeat, if you remember, on the A section right after that. So when we play the second and third line, you did it beautifully that first time through, but then we actually want to go back and repeat the second and third line again before we go on to the coda. Okay, so we do want to start getting in the habit of that now, otherwise it just becomes really hard to remember later. So we'll include both of our repeats for the both of those sections, and then, oh yeah, that was the other thing. So your left hand notes, your right hand is looking like it's coming along great on the coda section at the end. Left hand notes, I just want to do a quick review here, make sure that we're getting those all correct. So your first chord on the coda section is F, B flat, and D. So just do me a favor and double check that one when you practice this week. I think we might have had C on the top instead of D. Your thumb will shift up to D for that first one. And then the second measure of the coda, back down to C for that F chord. So you have F, A, C. And then we actually are going to pick up and move all together for your last two measures. So you're going to move all the way down so that your thumb is on the next C down. So this will be the C below middle C. That's where your thumb is going to move to for those lone C's there in the third measure. And then the last measure, you don't have to go anywhere. You should have F and C together there, okay? So just take a quick look at that when you work on it this week. Make sure that you're getting all of those left-hand notes correct, and then we should be in good shape to maybe try that hands together next time. Like I said, really little things for this week. We're in great shape with this one, and it's really just reminders like about those repeats, right? So that is looking fabulous. We are going to still wait to start a new Hanon because it's not going anywhere, right? I do want us to start some new technique in addition to the up and touch for this week. So the next thing we're going to do is going to be the E major scale. You do already have this technique page in your binder. It'll be under the 2 octave scales for D, A, and E major. We're all the way up to the E scale here, and it will be for 2 octaves instead of 1. So with this scale, we are up to 4 sharps. It's actually one of my favorite scales to play. It feels very symmetrical. It's like the the palindrome version of a musical scale, because we're basically going to start with an E, and then we have 2 sharps, F sharp and G sharp, and then we have 2 white keys, A and B, 2 more sharps, C sharp and D sharp, and that brings us back to E again. And then for the second octave, we would just continue that pattern up to the new E. So we'll do hands alone for this week. You do have all of your finger numbers written in on your page. The biggest thing I think is just getting used to remembering where those sharps are and where each hand has to cross over and under. So for your right hand, when your right hand goes up, you're going to cross under on A, and then again on E. Oh, it's going to cut me out of the frame here. There we go. So I was here. That was my first octave. And then I'm going to cross under on A again. And that takes me all the way up to E. When my right hand comes down, I'm going to come down all 5 fingers. Then I'm going to cross over my 3rd finger to G sharp, 4 over to D sharp, and 3 over to G sharp again. Okay, so that's the E scale for your right hand. Again, this is all on your page, so you can follow along to help you out. You don't have to like commit this to memory or anything. And then for your left hand, you're going to come up all 5 fingers. Then we'll cross over the 3rd finger to C sharp, 4 over to F sharp, and 3 over to C sharp again, which brings us up to our E. And then coming down, we'll play the first 3 notes, cross under to B, under to E, under to B one more time, and that takes us all the way down to E. Now I I think scales tend to come pretty easily to you. They just kind of make sense, and we don't usually have too many complications with that. So I think you'll probably be okay to check that out on your own this week. If you do run into questions, that's no problem. We'll just take a look at that together on Tuesday. But I think for the most part, you should be all right to get started on that without us going over it together at exactly the same time in the same space, right? Okay, I think that is everything. So I will see you on Monday. If you run into any problems, again, just make a note of it. We can take a look at it on Tuesday next week in your lesson. And have a great rest of your weekend. All right, I'll see you then. Bye.